Good morning, friends. It is Wednesday morning, and we were doing our countdown to the last days of school on Monday. We said there were 7 days left, but we went through Monday. And yesterday, I wasn't feeling well, so we didn't have a tape, but that was our, right, 6 more days left of school. So today, there are 5 more days of school until you are an official second grader. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. You guys are getting so big. All right, so we've been having fun. I hope you've been having fun with your flat Miss Heidi. I have seen tons of pictures and videos and sent to my email, sent to my Facebook. Keep them coming. I love it. I love it. I love the beds. I love the tables. I can't wait to see the houses today. And it looks like you've been having fun with some of the bingo activities. I've seen chalk, and I've seen bubbles, and a couple other things, planting, adventures, a few adventures you've taken me on. So please, please, please keep them coming. And again, I don't care how you send them. You can do them email, you can do them on Facebook Messenger, or just put them right on Facebook and the class can see them. All right, so we were reading a little bit. I got some of my inspiration here from Flat Stanley. But I also got my inspiration. Miss Krista did it with her class, and I've seen some other teachers do it as well. So, but they got their inspiration, I'm sure, from this book, Flat Stanley. So I thought it would be fun to read a little bit. Okay, so he just got back from California, and he was mailed there, right? And now he's back home with Mr. and Mrs. Lamb Chop, and let's see what his adventure for today is. Are you ready? Mr. Lamb Chop had always liked to take the boys out walking with him on Sunday afternoons, but it was hard when they were crossing streets or moving about in crowds. It was easier after Stanley got flat. Mr. Lamb Chop found that he could roll Stanley up without hurting him at all. He would tie a piece of string around Stanley to keep him from unrolling and make a little loop in the string. Then he could carry Stanley like a package and hold on to Arthur with his other hand. Stanley did not mind because he had never much liked walking around. Arthur didn't like to walk either, but he had to, and this made him mad. One Sunday afternoon, they met an old friend of Mr. Lambchop's, a man he had not seen for years. "Well, George, I see you have some wallpaper," the man said. "Going to fix up the house, I suppose." "Wallpaper," said Mr. Lambchop. "Oh no, this is my son, Stanley." Do you see it? You see Stanley? There he is, all rolled up. Can you imagine if you were flat and your mom just carried you around, rolled you up and carried you around with a string? Isn't that crazy? All right, he undid the string and Stanley unrolled. "How do you do?" Stanley said. "Nice to meet you, young fellow," the man said. He said to Mr. Lambchop, "George, that boy is flat." "Smart, too," Mr. Lambchop said. "Stanley is third from the top in his class at school." "Phooey," said Arthur. This is my other son, Arthur," Mr. Lambchop said. "He is not always so rude." Arthur blushed and said he was sorry. Mr. Lambchop rolled Stanley up again, and they set out for home. It began to rain. Stanley, of course, got wet just around the edges, but Arthur, he got soaked. Late that night, Mr. and Mrs. Lambchop heard a noise in the living room. They found Arthur on the floor near the bookcase. He had put a great many books on top of himself. "Put some more on me," Arthur said when he saw them. "Don't just stand there, help me." Mr. and Mrs. Lambchop sent him back to bed, but the next morning they talked to Stanley. "Arthur can't help being jealous," they said. "Be nice to him. You're his big brother after all." I think Arthur wants to be flat too, huh? Stanley and Arthur were in the park. Many boys were flying beautiful kites with long tails. Arthur sighed. Someday, he said, I will have a big kite and I will win a kite flying contest and be famous like everyone else. Nobody knows who I am these days. Stanley remembered what his parents had said, and he went to a boy whose kite was broken and borrowed some string. You can fly me, Arthur, he said. Come on. He tied the string to himself and gave Arthur the other end to hold. He ran across the grass sideways to get up speed, and then he turned to meet the wind. Up, 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 Stanley, being a kite. Up, went Stanley, being a kite. He knew just how to fly. He faced full into the wind if he wanted to go up and let it take him from behind when he wanted to go fast. He had only to turn his thin edge to the wind a little at a time, and then he would zoom down toward the earth again. Arthur let out all the string, and Stanley flew high above the trees. He was a beautiful sight in his green sweater and brown trousers against the pale blue sky. Everyone in the park stood still to watch. How would you like to fly, your little brother or sister? Or be flat yourself and be up there like a kite? Am I crazy? Uh-oh. Something's happening. Are you ready? Stanley flew right and he flew left, matched the swoops. He zoomed at the ground like a rocket and turned up again towards the sun. He made circles and crazy eights and crosses and a star. Nobody ever flew the way that Stanley Lambchop flew that day. After a while, Arthur got tired of running about with the end of the string. Stanley went right on, though, showing off. 3 boys came up to Arthur and asked him to go with them for a hot dog. Arthur left the string tied to a tree. He did not notice that the wind was blowing the string was getting all tangled up in the tree. The string got shorter and shorter and shorter, but Stanley did not know how low he was until the leaves touched his feet, and then it was too late. He was caught in the branches. 15 minutes passed. Arthur and the other boys heard his cries and before Arthur and the other boys heard his cries and climbed up to get him. That evening at bedtime, Arthur said he was very sorry, but Stanley was still cross. Look. Still cross. What does cross mean, do you think, in that sentence? Yeah, he was still mad. That's another word for mad. All right, so that was his adventure for today. I'll read another Stanley adventure tomorrow and check in with you on how you're doing with your Miss Flat Heidi's. I have a special treat for you today, and it is a story from Miss Kelly. So be sure to read, or be sure to watch her story. All right, my friends, I'll see you later. Bye.